All right, it's that time of year. Diamond Sports are about to get in full swing, no pun intended. It all starts with some college softball, and I'm delighted to be we're delighted to be joined by Sam Houston head coach for softball, Garrett Valis. Coach, I really appreciate you hopping on with us. Just to just kind of open things up. Just how's the off season been? How's the team been? How was fall training and everything leading up to this 2025 season and y'all's second year in Conference USA?
Yeah, it's been a busy year, and every year you're trying to use the fall to gauge the type of team you're going to have, and how they're different, how they're similar to teams that you've coached in the past, how you've gotten better, identify things that you still need to improve on. Trying to find that group that gels and meshes together on the field from a communication and kind of flow standpoint, and we have a trying to see with our pitching staff where they're at. And so we had two new staff members this year that have been really good and integrating themselves in their positions, and Jesse Carrion and Lexi Smith. And then, also a lot of new players. So got six transfers and four true freshmen. And so even though we return, 13 kids, about five or six of those are returning freshmen. So really just kids that still haven't played a whole lot, that are now sophomores. And so at the end of the day, we've got a pretty heavy old, senior group, and then a lot of new kids. And so really the fall was just trying to get people to learn about each other, really identify where their strengths are, because we've got several kids that are they utility really, and so are they better here? Are they better there? And trying to find that kind of rhythm. The leadoff position has been a hot topic for us, just because we graduated Ellie Grill, who had spent a lot of time in that spot, and then Megan McDonald before that. And so really we had about 7, 8 years of, you kind of know who your leadoff is. And so when you go through that, and you don't have maybe a clear cut kid with experience, we've got a lot of kids that have done it before in high school and club ball, but not at this level, for us. And so kind of working through some of that's been important. And I think we'll have several kids that probably hit in that spot this year, which is not necessarily a negative. I just think that depending on how we're wanting to play offense and how the team evolves will kind of dictate some of that stuff as well for us. But overall, we're pretty healthy. Got a few bumps and bruises, and a few, one kid that's out for the year, and stuff that's going to redshirt and come back next year. But overall, I like the preparation that we've had. I think that it's been positive. I think the team has grown together a lot since August. And I think that we've got a lot of new kids that are going to help us, along with some seniors that seem motivated to kind of leave a mark here their last year.
Yeah, coach, you've been around this program for a long time. You've withstood multiple conference changes. When you're kind of coming into your second year into Conference USA, um, whether it's personnel, how do you feel kind of about that adaptation that the team has had to undertake, and now finally setting grounds into a conference where we think Sam Houston will be for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, last year was, and I think all of our sports probably feel this way, was an extremely competitive year, and specifically for softball. I mean, just very, very tight. I mean, um, our total, we did not have a great record in conference last year, but we got outscored by a total over 23 games, a total of 8 runs over 23 games. So lots of tight ball games. And I think we found our stride in the second half of the year. Some of that was, I think opponent based, but a lot of it was just us finding kind of the competitive balance in the league. Previous conferences that we've been in, there were some teams that did not perform as well, and you could kind of, everyone kind of beat up on those teams. And Conference USA is not that way. Whether you're at home or road, you have to play well every day, and be at your best to win ball games. And if not, you lose a lot of close ball games, or you're constantly in a fight in the seventh inning, which is great. It's a lot of fun to be a part of. So I think that experience was really important for our returners to understand that, especially for our two young pitchers, Amy Abke and Abby Young, who are returning. And I think it was great that they got to get the experience that they had last year. But overall, I think the league's going to be very, very tight again this year. I don't see anyone really separating themselves from everyone else. I think it'll be very competitive. I know we've got to be a little bit more offensive. I think in past years you could just dominate a league like the Southland at times with really great pitching, and win a lot of 2-1, 3-2 ball games. I think that you know, coaching and facilities and opportunity and information is in athletes are just a little bit deeper in Conference USA. And so when you get to the second and third game of the series, I don't think you can really creep up. You're gonna have to put some runs on the board for the most part. Even if you are pitching well, you got to live above 4 runs a game, I think, if you're gonna compete in the top 3 spots in the league.
What's you mentioned the offensive side of things, just kind of what exactly separates Conference USA from the other conferences, you've been in, just like what's like the thing about the pitchers at this level that you know, may have that y'all were trying to, get adjusted to and just you know, hope to do so this year.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that it's in Texas when you're competing against a lot of Texas and Louisiana schools when you're kind of in the Southland, and I just think Southland just because we spent such a brief time in the WAC, and then also a lot of those Southland schools went with us to the WAC is who we competed with, so I kind of compare that similarly. But the teams that we're playing against are recruiting more nationally, and so we as coaches don't have as much familiarity with a kid that's from Tennessee, just because of the way we recruit. And whereas these kids in the Southland, we've been watching a lot of these kids and had familiarity with them. I think velocity is number one. You're just going to run into more kids that have velocity in Conference USA. You're also going to run into, I think, deeper staffs. And so basically, in past years, if you were to knock out a number one on a weekend, there was maybe a good drop off 2, 3, and 4. And now that's not the case. You're going to get a really good number 2, a really good number 3, possibly a really good number 4 from somebody. And they're hard to play off of each other. So I think staffs are built better now as well, as far as pitching staffs, where they recruit kids that, they're slower and drop and heavy change with a rise ball kid and maybe a heavy velo kid, maybe a left-hander. And so it's just, we saw those type of arms last year throughout the league, outside of maybe a few weekends, and so they just challenge you. And so from an offensive standpoint, I think that the key is that we have to be completely adjustable. Like we can't wait around. Like we have the information, we have to understand what's coming, and we have to be aggressive in that approach to attack a kid. You can't wait till the second or third time you see them to make those adjustments. Because if they adjust faster than we did, then we're going to be playing behind.
Yeah, kind of talking about your pitching staff, with both Young and Apke, what's the biggest difference that you've seen from them coming in from last year into this year, into their second season?
I think, well, for Amy, it's health. Even though she didn't miss time last year, she was battling some stuff, and she just, I think, came in a better spot from a health standpoint. These pitchers, and this is across the board. I guarantee you, if you talk to college coaches, that they go through the ringer through high school seasons because they throw and throw and throw and throw, and then they go straight into summer, and it's 110 degrees, and they throw a bunch over the summer, and then they do that for 4 years. There's a lot of wear and tear that goes in their bodies, and so I think it's hard when those freshmen get here to be 100% healthy. They're just usually it's a lot of wear and tear injuries, and nothing major, but stuff that holds you back. And so she's in a better spot health wise. She certainly has the experience now too. I mean, she knows what to expect from a strike zone standpoint. And stuff that they didn't get in high, or that they got in high school they don't get now. They know what they can get away with a little bit more with hitters. So I see both of them being more precise with, yeah, I know I got a swing and miss on that pitch, but I missed. That ball was over the plate, and the hitter should have hit that ball. So I think they just understand what they can get away with, what works and what doesn't work. Having Lexi Smith is probably going to be the biggest help to us, just from a experienced pitching coach standpoint, for both of those girls as well. So combination of experience, health, and a really good pitching coach, I think are going to make a big difference for those two girls.
Can you touch a little bit more on Lexi Smith's impact and just kind of what made you saw her out as well?
Well, I mean, I've known her for a while, and honestly, probably should have pursued her a little bit sooner. But you know, she's kind of was cutting her teeth at the Division I level from a pitching coach standpoint, and had a really good thing going for her at Northwestern State. But she's a hard worker. You know, when you see these coaches out recruiting, she's always out recruiting. She's very detailed in what she looks for and what she stays away from a recruiting standpoint. What she knows, hey, I can help that kid improve. They may not be a Division I arm right now, or a number 1 Division I arm right now, but I see the traits in them to that if I can correct this and this and this, then they're going to get there. So I just think that she does a good job of projecting where kids will finish versus where they are and evaluating where they are. She's also just she's very detailed and specific, but she's um, flexible when it comes to working with her pitchers and helping them get to a I guess their potential versus you're going to do it my way or else. There's certain things that she expects of them, but they're high caliber expectations. You know, she played at A&M in the SEC and pitched in the Women's College World Series, so she's been on the biggest of stages, and she's just been around those type of athletes her whole life, and so I just love her work ethic. I think that the way she views the game and the way she looks at hitters and her work ethic and preparation really set her apart from other people that I've been around.
Go ahead, Colin.
Again, you know, you and I talked a little bit about her before, Coach. Bella Perez, McNeese transfer catcher. She got named to preseason All Conference USA. Just kind of along with Elliot Heba, we'll get to her. But what can you tell us a little bit about her?
Bella's really, really competitive. She is a workaholic. You know, she spent as much time, if not the most time, of anyone on our team this year in the cage. She's always working on her swing. Sometimes at her detriment. You know, she's one of those people that likes to nitpick at herself a little bit, and sometimes that as a hitter can be problematic. But um, she takes pride in her defense. She's a very good, you know, catcher's one of those positions where it's defense over offense. And so, you know, she does a great job of handling the strike zone and working with shape and pitches. She does a great job of handling the running game. She's a good communicator. I think that she has a chance to really thrive here. We spent a lot of time watching her before she chose to go to McNeese, and so when she became available, it was kind of a no brainer for us, and we went hard after her. With losing Hannah last year, who had spent so much time behind the plate, you know, we were going to have not necessarily a question mark. We had some kids that could step in, but didn't have that solid, hey, this is the person we can rely on. And I think Bella can be part of that. We really have some other good catchers as well, especially transfer from MCC, Kyla Heine. So I feel like we're going to see a few people back there this year. But if Bella, you know, handles the offensive side of things and performs at her level, I expect her to be back there a lot. So I'm really happy to have her here.
Yeah, Coach. We lost a lot of production and at bats from last year and now into this year. Kind of talk about, you know, in the batters lineup, who are some athletes that you're really counting on to step up?
Yeah, I mean, you know, certainly Elia, I expect to you know carry us when it comes to some power and stuff like that. You know, she's got the experience and she's got the ability to do that. Really, I think that Jordan Pino is somebody that quietly has always had good seasons, but has never been able to kind of firmly stamp herself day in and day out in the lineup. But you know, there's the things that she struggles with are just things that I've gotten to a point that I'm accepting of those things because her positives outweigh those things that kind of hold her back, pitch selection wise and stuff like that. But she's an energy giver. She provides juice, if you will, to us as an offense. She's not a big power kid, but she is a kid that can hit for gap. She's been good with runners in scoring position in her career. She can drop a bunt down and just plays with a lot of passion. So I expect Jordan Pino to be one of those kids that kind of stands out. I think that Bella's going to give us something. I think Sam Grader is going to give us a little bit more pop, that we graduated a few kids that provided that last year. She's a kid that's been at UL for 3 years and been in and out of the lineup, had injuries, and so she's got work to do for sure. But I feel like that she's someone that can help protect E a little bit in the middle of our lineup. But those are kind of the main ones that I'm looking at. Morgan Holiday has been battling an injury here at the beginning of the spring, so I don't know that we'll have her this weekend, but hopefully get her back next week. And then, but she's someone, again, from an experience standpoint, I think was making great strides this fall. And even when she got back this spring, to kind of build off of what was a pretty strong freshman year for her, redshirt freshman year. But she's got, for small kids, got a lot of power, a lot of speed, can use the field. I expect a big year from her as well once we get her healthy. And then Trisha Urotsky is going to redshirt. She had surgery back in December, and so she'll be out for the year. And so that's something else that we got to look at, and who fills those shoes. So Hallie Day is probably the freshman that stands out the most if you're looking for somebody from that spot. She's a left-handed hitter. Definitely just does a great job of handling everything. I don't know how to explain it. Like, she just is she's a hitter. She doesn't do everything right, but she gets the good part of the bat on the good part of the ball often. And she has some power, swings it pretty good from the left side. So I expect her to kind of fill maybe some of those shoes of Trisha from an offensive standpoint that we're missing. But she's a freshman, so she'll go through some up and downs, I'm sure, as well.
Yeah, and coming into the year, tough schedule. And the Bearkat Classic, obviously, always a good one. Facing Texas, you have Stephen F. Austin early, and then you go to Louisiana. Kind of talk about the schedule, and how that was built, and kind of what's your early season goals going into conference.
Yeah, I mean, the schedule, I think, is somebody asked me about the other day. I think it's balanced. We are certainly playing some heavy hitters. Texas will be one or two, I think two when they come into town on Sunday. And that was not by design. That's something that kind of came to light later on. They were scrambling, needing some games, and so they decided to come through just on Sunday. But Tulsa's a good program, an historically strong program. They lost quite a few seniors, and we played them last year when we were in San Marcos and beat them 5-1. We played them the year before that up at their place, and they beat us up a little bit. And so, they remind me a lot of a Conference USA, a top tier Conference USA program. So I think it's good to get somebody like that on the schedule early. New Mexico and Bryant and Corpus have kind of been up and down. I think they're all solid programs. They can sneak up and get you at any time, but not anyone that I believe is going to completely overwhelm you. So I think they're all good tests for us. I think it's great to play a really high caliber team like Texas early in the year, just to kind of see what that's like. I tell our team, if we're trying to get into a regional, or we're going to compete in the conference tournament in against really good ball clubs, you got to have some experience and exposure to some of those programs. And then, yeah, when we go over to UL, when you get in the tournament, you don't ever really know who's exactly going to be in it. They kind of tell you, and it changes so much with scheduling. So UL is going to be a very different program. They lost a lot of players, new head coach. But they're always tough at home. So it's not really going to matter about who's on the field with them. It's playing in that environment. So that'll be good for us as well, to play in that type of environment against really good ball clubs. NIU is always good. Those northern schools, you don't see a whole lot. You don't know any of their kids, but they always pitch it well. They're physical in the way that they play the game. Ole Miss, obviously, an SEC program, is going to be physical, but they had a lot of turnover as well. So I feel like that weekend in Central Arkansas has been really good over the years. They've lost some of their arms, but they've taken the step up since they left the Southland and kind of risen to a new level as well. And so, yeah, it's a weekend that if you go into with those 4 games, I mean, they are going to challenge you for sure. All 4 games, and you're going to have to play well to win any or all of those games. But at the end of the day, I think that's the type of weekend that you're going to get playing at Liberty. That's the type of weekend you're going to get when you go to New Mexico State, which is a tough place to play. So really, it's about us, or can we show up and repeat? If we play a really good game against Northern Illinois, can we show up and then do that again against Central Arkansas? Can we show up and do that again? And it's really just about seeing who's going to raise their game from a competitive level and really sell out to compete. And that's part of what early in the season's about, trying to figure out some of that stuff. But I'm excited to start the year with 5 or 6 games in a row at home. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, a new look that the Bearkat softball complex has this year. You know, it wasn't only football that got turf. Believe it or not, everybody. You know, softball got turf. Used to be the old grass and dirt. Now it's the good old turf. Coach, just kind of how's it been like? I mean, I know turf is really nice because it's easier to work around rain delays and all that. But I imagine you and players that have played on that grass and dirt there had to really adjust to it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean the biggest thing for me is that I love grass and dirt. I think it's great, but it's hard, especially in Huntsville, to work around weather and the changes that are constant. And so the fact that we don't worry as much about changing our practice approach based on the weather is awesome. We are able to train in a different way. We can have multiple things going on in the field at one time because you're not worried about tearing up the grass in this spot and you need to be on the dirt. We can do more with our hitting. We can spread out and go three wide, three tunnels out there, which is hard to do when you have grass, again, just from a tearing it up standpoint, because I'm also a person that wants things to look nice. And so it's hard to do both of those all the time. So now we don't worry about it as much. But the trainability aspect of it, we get a better home field advantage when we're at home. We spend a lot of time dealing with tarps and trying to keep the field as playable as possible when we're at home. And so if we had a 3:30 game on a Saturday and it rained all night, our kids had to be up there at 8 or 9 in the morning to get the tarp off. So they lose that rest and recovery factor. The visiting team is just hanging out at the hotel or getting to kind of do their own schedule. So I think it's just an advantage for us. We get a true home field advantage. Obviously, we should be familiar with the playability of it. Every turf plays slightly different, and so some are a little faster, some are a little slower. So I think that we've got a feel for that better than when somebody hasn't played on it before. But there's still going to be some adjustability to it. Balls can get skippy on certain days, and other days they die a little bit more, and so our players are just having to adjust that. But not only the turf, but the padded sidewalls. So we padded up and down both right field and left field lines as well. And so that's just adds to the ballpark, the feel. It looks great. Obviously, it's safer, and so kids can go hard. We don't have a lot of foul territory, and we shorten the fence near the bullpen. So there's going to be some balls where people can kind of reach over that fence and steal some outs that way. That should be an advantage for us, just because it's hard to practice, I think, and train for, where we get to do that every day. So extremely pleased and happy about the surface, the playability, and I think it does give us an advantage.
Coach, I was curious. I heard you're a Philadelphia Phillies fans. Are you Philadelphia, overall? Not overall? Okay.
No,
I was going to
no,
ask you
it's a
about
fa-
I was going to ask you about the Super Bowl, but you know what?
no. I am sadly enough a Cowboys fan. I am I got to live through the glory days when I was very young, and it's been a long time of just frustration. I have zero comment about anything positive that they're doing right now. I just but I guess I'm hanging on by a thread. We'll see. But no, the Phillies thing is a family connection. And my dad grew up a Phillies fan, and so it just kind of stuck from there. But I catch it from all of our players because most of them are Astros fans. So when the Phillies and Astros were in the World Series a few years ago, I had to hear about it all the time. So
Yeah, that's where I was getting. That's where I was getting at. But you're not. You're a Mavs fan as well? I'm guessing.
Mavs, no, I'm not
Okay.
much of a I've been a fair weather basketball fan. So when I was young, I was a Rockets fan. It was hard to get away from Clyde and Akeem and that group. And then when the Spurs drafted Duncan and they had uh, I'm drawing a blank on his name, the lefty big center. But anyways, when they were good, I was a Spurs fan, and I've kind of floated away from basketball here lately. So never been really super tied. I'm more a fair weather basketball fan than anything.
I'm
Oh,
just
he's a focused man. We got softball to talk about. We can't be
no.
talking about
I'm just checking to make
man.
sure that all the Mavs fans I know that are okay after what transpired in the last 36 hours. But but you're right, Luke. Transfer back to softball, but coach, you're building up to this again, second year in Conference USA. Just to kind of end things off here, just kind of what are you, what have you, what is something that you're looking forward to this year, and just what can we expect from Bearkat softball in the year 2025?
I think I'm excited about our pitching staff. I think that we are deep. We play off of each other well, and so we've got three new arms. We got two transfers: a Division I kid, Kendall Daniel from Tarleton, an MCC kid, a junior from McKenzie from McLennan, and then we have a freshman, Tiffany Sanchez. So I think all three of those pitchers are going to have an impact for us, along with the two returners, Amy and Abby. So it's the deepest pitching staff without a doubt that we've had probably in my career here. And so I'm excited about that. I don't want to get over the moon over it. We haven't played a game yet, but I feel like that we're going to be very competitive against any roster that we go out against from a pitching standpoint. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the multiple people that are going to be able to help us from an offensive standpoint. I don't believe we're going to be reliant on one or two kids. I think that we're going to have a roster full, even above the 9 that are in that day, that could make an impact from an offensive standpoint. And so I'm excited about that. And I'm excited about the schedule. I think our kids are fired up about the preseason. I think that they see that as an opportunity to like I said, learn about ourselves, but also gather some momentum going into Conference USA play. So we open a weekend in Conference USA play against WKU, who was one of the best teams in the league last year. They swept us when we went up there. Tight ball games, all 3 games, but they're just really well coached and they play hard. And so I love the fact that we get to open up at home against them, and really get tested right away. And I think that our preseason allows us to get ready for that series. So for me, it's just you spend so much time being a spring sport with your fall preparation and lifting and conditioning, and then you take the scary winter break of seeing where are we going to go from there and how are we going to show back up. But our kids showed up in shape. We've weathered the few injury things for the most part, and this time of year these kids are so ready to play somewhere else. It's tough to see your own pitching over and over, and it's tough to get through some of these practices. You've practiced at this point, outside of your individual stuff, you've practiced about 60 days together, counting fall and in January. And so that's a lot of practice before you actually get to play somebody.
Well, we all begin y'all season this Thursday, 5 p.m. against New Mexico, then Bryant, Tulsa, A&M, Corpus Christi, and then versus one of the best teams in the country, Texas. If you're a student and you have nothing to do, you can go out there for free. Just you can go out there for free. I mean, what else you got to do? You got softball to enjoy up at the Bearcat Softball Complex. Coach, I really thank you for joining us, and here's to a good 2025 season.
I appreciate the time, guys, and I hope that y'all have a good one as well.